Hello and welcome to Worried About Nothing. Today we decided we'd go in a bit of a different direction and talk about whether or not certain people are dead. We hope you enjoyed the show. All right, so do we want to do reading into specifically whether or not people are dead?
Yeah, we could see where it takes us. Why not?
Yeah, we could
Give it a
start
go.
there. Okay, yeah, I had made a list which I don't have in front of me of just like 5 people because I thought that might be like kind of cool. So I figured the first person, I know there's a lot of like interest around this, it would be JFK Jr. And if you sense anything about, I guess either might be what happened with when his plane went down, or is he actually dead, or what maybe even happened in that situation, if you have anything that comes up.
Well, that feels like a really easy one. He's not dead. Definitely alive. Plane crash was a bit of a sham or a scam. No, he's definitely alive. God, yeah. No, he's right there, right in my face.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, I've felt that way too more recently, but I don't have, it's still learning to trust myself. So it's amazing. Yeah. And when I hear it from you, it really feels right there.
Yeah, definitely. And very involved in everything that's going on. All the sightings of him that people have sort of posted are true. Oh yeah, definitely. Very involved, very, very alive.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Well, I guess we could also talk about his father and with that assassination. Is there anything around there that comes up? Because I know there's a lot of speculation, maybe multiple shooters, maybe even, I think it was like George H.W. Bush involvement, maybe,
Yeah, let's have a look. Well, first of all, with JFK Jr., the plane crash was all a big ruse because he had to go into hiding because he was being targeted. Don't know by who or how. I'm not very good at American politics. I don't really know much of the detail, but he had to disappear for a while because of that. Feels like it's connected to his dad. His dad had so much light. He really had so much light, and it feels like the whole assassination was incredibly planned. It wasn't a random shooter. It was very, very planned. It was very deeply embedded in high up military and government forces. It was planned for a long time, it looks like to me. So it was put into the works not very long after he became president, actually. Oh, it looks like his wife was involved. That's interesting. I don't know how or in what way, but it kind of feels like she knew more than she admitted to. And it feels like the surprise that we've all seen, in the videos of her kind of bending over him and the whole reaction in the car wasn't actually genuine. Oh, that's really interesting. A little bit scary. That's really out there. Okay, that was unexpected.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never even thought about that. I'd never really gave much thought to her at all, honestly. So that is interesting.
Yeah, but it feels like there were a lot of people involved that surrounded him that knew everything that was happening. They were all in on it or they knew about it. So that it wasn't a shock. I think even he knew more than he let on. But yeah, it was a big operation. It looks like it was a massive operation. And it was because he knew too much. I mean, he knew a lot. He didn't talk about, he was going to expose a lot. And he was also going to change a lot, and that couldn't happen. It couldn't be allowed. So he was taken out. And she was blackmailed into silence, it looks like to me. So there was a lot of, I think it was along the lines of, I'll kill your kids if you don't comply. And she was also involved in some ways that I can't quite see, but they look a little bit murky. But she was actively involved in some ways. It wasn't just a passive manipulation somehow. Because she came from a powerful family. I don't know much about the background or the history, but she knew her family was very strongly involved in politics. And the roots go deep into not all goodness. There's some dark cabal type energy there as well. And it's all just so convoluted. I mean, American politics and the presidential everything going back to, you know, the beginning of time or the beginning of when the first president was elected just looks so convoluted and it's so manipulated. And there's just so much power game playing and so much kind of, I'll give you this if you give me that kind of thing. You know, it's very much a sort of, well, I'll give you this power if you keep quiet about this, and then you allow this to happen, and then we'll let you carry on, kind of thing. You know, it's very, very dominated by this horrible elite, you know, that are very strongly coming up now, but it's definitely the same energy. But it just really goes back. I mean, it's the same, everything that's happening now is part of a plan that was in place round about JFK's assassination, and before. It was planned many years before, it looks like to me. And his death was just a kind of almost like the shotgun to the start of a race. You know, it was kind of like, right, this is going to set a lot of things in motion that are going to happen over the next few decades and are happening now. It's interesting.
Very interesting. I find it very interesting. It's interesting that you'd also spoke about the dynamics and how everything seemed like a giant power game from the beginning of the United States, because I know that there's some speculation that the United States never actually broke free from the crown. Do you see anything regarding that?
Yeah, it looks like there's very much a close tie. There always has been, because the crown is not what it's portrayed in any sense of the word, or any sense at all. It's, incredibly powerful. The roots run really, really deep. It is very, very steeped in evil. And the US does look to some extent like a puppet, in that the power comes from London. The power does come from the crown. It's very tied in with the Vatican. It's very tied in with a number of other families that are scattered around the world. But there's definitely that power leadership from the crown. I mean, it's kind of, the crown as is seen in the media is like a puppet show. It's not real at all. What really is happening behind the scenes is terrifying. They are evil incarnate. And talking about rituals and power plays and things going back centuries, they've had a lot of influence over US politics and the presidential candidate and everyone, really, going back to the very beginning. Until Trump, came along and blasted a lot of that open. And I'm amazed he's still alive, actually, because the amount of, people that are after him that really, really seriously want to kill him is quite astounding. And the fact that he's still alive and still, doing what he's doing is amazing. Because they've killed everyone else. They've put puppets into the presidential position. The only few that haven't been puppets didn't last long, and were very, very controlled, very stifled, not allowed to do what they really wanted to do, and not allowed to carry out the things that they really felt were their life's work, or what, they needed to do. But there was something, there was always something with them that, even though they weren't allowed to carry out everything that they really felt strongly that was truth. Because it looks to me like when I kind of look at the line of almost, the timeline of presidents, there's a few lights that just stand out, and they were always snuffed out really early. But the amount of light that they managed to radiate in their time had rippling effects. So it's like with this whole dark history, there's little ripples of light that are still kind of rippling out now. So whatever they did was good. So it had an impact, and it wasn't for nothing, and it feels like it's all happening still. So in some ways tied in with Jfk Jr., because he knows all about it. He's there. He knows all of the history. He's going to be very involved in whatever happens next, I feel. My God, what am I saying?
It's what you're reading.
It's kind of weird and kind of scary. Anyway. But in some ways it feels like, and it looks like, he's going to have a big part to play in ending this whole centuries-long dynamic and control and power, which is really interesting, because the cabal and the elite know about this. They know it's happening, but they seem to be, to some extent, powerless to do anything about it. So they're trying really hard. Like they tried with Trump so hard to kill him, discredit him, kill him, discredit. It was like a constant, seesaw. But they can't do it. And it's like Trump knows something about them or knows some things about them that mean that they can't touch him. JFK Jr. is the same. And I don't know what it is that they know in detail, but there is something there that they have not exactly wrested control from the cabal, but they've got something over them. And I don't know whether it's a threat to expose them. No, well, there's partly that, but there's something that I can't quite see at the moment. But it's a very interesting dynamic. It's there's so much going on beneath the surface than we can see or be aware of, and it's even people who know the cabal history and know all about the work, or they think they know about all the work they're doing, haven't even scratched the surface. It goes so deep and it goes back so far. And, people are focusing on Hollywood and the pedophiles and all that sort of stuff. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That is nothing. That's almost a distraction, to get people outraged. But what's really happening is evil. I mean, it's Satan incarnate, it's really, really dark. And it's all about sacrifice and ceremony and death and ripping souls. It looks like there's something around ripping souls and innocence that's been going on for so long. And even, all these child sacrifices and everything that's coming to light now, all these children that have been buried and in unmarked graves, all of that is just the tip of the iceberg too. It goes so much deeper than that I'd never seen before. But there are a couple of people, Trump and JFK Jr. know this and they see this, and there are a few more people that are working with them that know this and see this too. And it's really interesting to look at, because it's like there's this almost like an octopus type, scorpion type creature or energy that is desperately trying to rip open the world and destroy everything and everyone, really. But there are a few people who are just fighting against this that are really, really aware, high level awareness of what's going on, that are standing up to it. And it looks like to me like they're ripping open the world, but instead of them being able to emerge and pour poison onto the surface of the world, light is just flowing into the holes, so there's some control there, control over the evil that's trying to get out. And it looks like the, power and energy and everything is draining away from the cabal, from the crown, the royal family. They really, some of the things they've done over the centuries that I've never looked at before, but it's really horrific, really, really horrific. And it's interesting, there's so much sacrifice there, not just child sacrifice, but sacrifice of, well, they've all given up their souls, as we know, but yeah, they've given up their souls, they've given up their children's souls, they sacrifice innocence. Like you had mentioned earlier, Princess Diana, she was brought in as a sacrifice, but she managed to escape. Don't think she's dead either. Oh my God, no, she doesn't look dead to me. Wow, I never thought that before. No, I think she's managed to escape somewhere. Wow.
I love it. Oh my God.
But that was a whole interesting dynamic. Because when she did her interview, that was at the Panorama interview, when she kind of talked about the royal family, what they feared was not what she was talking about, because the words didn't mean anything to them. It was the threat of what she was exposing underneath all of that. Because she really knew how to use energy. And again, this is never something I've looked at before, but she really knew how to use energy against them. And so when she did her interview, with every word, it was a code, basically. It's basically everything she was saying was code for, I'm exposing what you truly are. And that's why they were scared of her. Oh, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we'll be seeing her again?
Oh, I don't know. It's interesting because she looks to me like she's not dead. She's alive, but she's not on the earth. So I don't know whether she's on a different planet or she's somewhere else, but she's not dead. And I don't mean in the sense of her spirit living on, but physically she doesn't look dead to me. But she's not here. She's not physically in the world. So I don't know whether she's in some kind of parallel universe or on a different planet or some kind of UFO, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's just, she's definitely, the presence is still very much alive. But it's an interesting dynamic with her sons because they've kind of gone over to the dark side. Or they seem to have. No, they definitely have. But again, it looks like to me that she knew more than she said. So she's got an overarching view of the plan as well. Oh God, this is weird.
I love it just because I'm watching you, you know, I can see you see the things that you're now reporting, you know?
And going, oh my God, I've never seen that before.
Right, I see your reaction of discovering it for the first time for yourself. Yeah. It's awesome to experience, yeah.
It's interesting. But she was definitely before her time. So she looks to me like she came from a different time. So she was born long before she was actually born, if that makes sense. So she knew way back, centuries back, what was happening. And then she came here, came to Earth, became a member of the royal family as part of a greater plan. I mean, you know, I was talking about the cabal's centuries-long plan. The light has had a centuries-long plan as well, you know, and it's, whether you believe the stories about Trump having, you know, time traveled and gone back in history and forward in history and all of this, I don't know, but there is definitely a sense that there is more known than what is actually physically seeable right now, you know. So things were predicted and seen from a long, long time ago, and I mean centuries ago. What is happening now was seen and is part of a bigger plan. And what will happen after was seen and is part of the bigger plan. So I think maybe this is partly why Trump and other people hold so much power, because they know what actually is going to happen or is happening. And there's that kind of unshakable, you know, I know this is true. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've lived it. I've seen this coming for centuries, you know, whether in one form or another. You know, it doesn't matter if they're in the same bodies, but there was just definitely a, you know, much in the same way that the dark forces have this family tree that's so interlinked that they've put all these people that are part of the same family into positions of power, and, you know, they're all billionaires and millionaires and all of this sort of stuff. The light is doing that too, and the light has done that sort of under the radar. So there is a massive family tree that I never realized existed before, but of the light forces that planted people in these positions of influence, you know. So it wasn't so much power in the sense of the world's view of power, money, riches, all that kind of thing, but just the places where they could disrupt the most, you know. So like Princess Diana was one. She was plopped in there. She, you know, threw everything into disarray. Trump was another. He became president. It was like, oh my God, what's happened to the world, you know? And there are various other people as well. And they all are of the same family tree. And I don't know how exactly, because it's not something I'd ever seen before or been aware of, but they are all part of the same family. They're all related in some way. And I don't know, it must go back centuries. And this has all been planned as well. So it's kind of like strategically, the light has been playing this amazing chess game, long-lasting chess game, you know. And it's not kind of been like a right checkmate, I'm going to checkmate you in 2 moves. It's been a long-lasting kind of, right, we're going to demolish you in, it might be 1,000 moves, but we've got everyone in place for this, you know. And it's really giving me chills actually, because it's quite phenomenal to see this and to learn it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like, you know, we talk about the light has already won, and I've known it and I felt it, but seeing it this way, it's like, well, of course they have. Oh my God, how could they not have? Look how strategic this is. Look how long range planned this is. You know, look how for every move the cabal puts forwards, it's like, well, we've got you. You know, you can try and move your pawn 2 steps forwards, boom, we'll take you. You know, whichever way you turn, we'll take you. And it's phenomenal. It's amazing. And then there's all these incredibly powerful light workers that are now working with them individually or in groups. So it's kind of like as part of the family, they're kind of helping bring light and awareness to that. Some are working with various individual people. But it's just kind of like, you know, there's no way that the light does not win at this stage. Looking at the way this looks, it's like, well, of course, you know, you can just sit back now and watch the show. It's like it's a foregone conclusion. It's done. It's a done deal. and it's just amazing. And it'll be in a different way to what anyone has predicted or expects or thinks they know. I can't see how it will end, because it looks like it's just too. It's kind of like, when you're watching two experts play, you can't see the end because it depends on how each other plays. But you know that one is more powerful than the other, or one is a better chess player than the other. It's like whatever the weaker one does, the more powerful one will checkmate them, or they'll knock them out. But it might be a different route, that kind of thing. It looks like that. So I just have every confidence that at every step of the way, the lights won. Absolutely. Because they're kind of like, well, all right, we'll allow you to do that. You can do that. Yeah. Play with your toys, little man, kind of thing. But we got you. We got the big picture. We're done, So it's quite amazing, actually. Wow. Chills.
Really cool.
Wow.
I had no idea we were going to go there.
No, I didn't either.
I was like, let's just talk about people who might be dead. Of course, I started with JFK. Maybe Jfk Jr. Maybe that's where we got, tipped off.
Yeah. Maybe if we'd started with Elvis, it would have been something slightly different that came out.
He was on my list too. Elvis, Michael Jackson. Who else did I have on there? Tupac, I think, because people are kind of interested about that sort of thing.
Oh, Michael Jackson was one of the light workers. He was a good one. Yeah, for sure.
Is he dead?
I'm not sure with him, because he was never human, so it's hard to say if he's alive or not. Because he came, it looks like he came into his body for a while to do what he did. And it wasn't about music, it was about bringing light. And now he's not in his body, but he's still alive, because he just wasn't a human. So he's still ongoing. He was very ethereal.
Oh, that's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah. I don't know much about, other types of beings. I hear about different types of like Palladians and things like that, but it's never anything I really looked into. So it's like I have a sense that they exist, but I don't really connect them to my everyday life, I guess. So it's just really interesting to hear. And he was in Men in Black. There's a scene with him, and I think it shows that he's an alien. I'm not saying that he's an alien, but it sparked my memory, because there's a scene where he's like, I could be Agent M. I remember it now. It's just so funny.
Oh God, that's so true. And they say, don't they, in Hollywood, in the films and things, they have to tell the truth. They have to show what is true, even though it's kind of, might be as a joke, in inverted commas like that. But oh wow, that's interesting, actually. I'd forgotten about that. Wow.
Oh, there's going to be so much more we can talk about.
And with the other ones, I'm not sure. Tupac, I don't know. I can't see him, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't see him at all. I don't know. Yeah. And Elvis, let's have a look. Yeah, Elvis looks dead to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think he died when they said he died?
No, he died later.
Yeah, because I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if he was dead now, but I just don't feel like he was dead then.
No, he didn't die then. He had a nice quiet retirement, Yeah, no, he definitely lived a few more, I'd say maybe another couple of decades after, in disguise, or, as himself. Yeah, it looks like he just wanted to get away from all of the spotlight and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. He was unrecognizable, so people had no idea who he was, because he just didn't look like Elvis anymore. That's interesting. Why would he not look like Elvis anymore? Hang on, let me look at that. Oh, it looks like his face was changed. Don't know who by, but yeah, his face was changed. Interesting. But he looks like Elvis underneath, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So,
yeah. It's funny, because that was somewhat revealed in the movie Death Becomes Her too, because they have a party in the movie and Elvis is at it, and it's like they make a joke like, stop popping up, in places. Like, we told you not to do that, because in this whole movie it's about they can live forever. So
right, yeah. Interesting. It's funny, it's interesting why I couldn't see Tupac and why Elvis was a bit more difficult to see. I think because with Princess Diana and Michael Jackson, they still had souls. They were still light. Whereas the other two, I can't see their souls. So maybe that's why they're more difficult to see. So I think there must have been some selling there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I don't know. It just blows me away. You know, you're telling me so much more than I thought. You know, this is gonna be. I thought you might be like, "Yep, they're dead. Nope, they're alive." But you see so much, and you're giving all this detail, things I never even thought about. It's amazing.
No, it's funny, isn't it? Because I've never looked at these things, and it's just interesting how, yeah, never looked for them till now, and suddenly seeing things that I had no idea existed. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will ask.
Know about?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure I could probably come up with a lot, but I will interject here and ask for our listeners if there's anything. Can I ask them if they'd like you to look into something? Maybe they could submit a suggestion and we can see what comes up. All right, guys, put it in the comments below. Reach out to us at worriedaboutonothing3@gmail.com and let's see what we can find or just see what's there. I guess. I was thinking, I don't know, I had Robin Williams pop up in my mind because I think there's been a lot of speculation around his situation, whether he killed himself, and I don't know, I just feel like there's something mysterious around there that people like wonder about.
Okay, Robin Williams. No, he didn't kill himself. He was killed. And he was killed because he was going to come forward and say things that people didn't want him to say. Because I think he was one of those in Hollywood that, you know, knows what's going on in the dark underbelly, but was really done with it. He felt very torn by it, it looks like. So it's almost like he wanted to retrieve his soul. So he was going to come out and talk about it all and name names, big names. So they killed him. Yeah, which is sad.
It is sad.
And he was very controlled for a long, long time by these, you know, these big names. Yeah. And it looks like there were big names that hadn't actually been brought, you know, hadn't been mentioned. So it was kind of not the Harvey Weinsteins and people like that have come out in the media, but it's people that we don't know about or haven't kind of been named before. So I think he would have caused a lot of controversy because he was so loved. You know, people would have believed him, whereas some other people, like, for example, Isaac Cappy, that came forward and named names, people just dismissed him as a bit of a crazy man, you know. But Robin Williams, because he had that authenticity and he had that kind of, you know, America loved him, the world loved him, that if he'd said what he wanted to say, it would have opened up a massive can of worms, it looks like to me. So they killed him, which is really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. That is sad. Since you touched on Harvey Weinstein, though, I have to ask about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we don't have footage of him killing himself in jail, so this whole thing's very suspicious. So I would just like to know if there's any information that you could see about that.
Oh, he's still alive. He's not dead. He's somewhere else. Yeah, yeah, he's definitely not dead. He looks like he made a couple of deals and he's alive somewhere. Yeah. He's just lying to the end, you know. It's just it's all just lying and untruth and wriggling and using his access, and you know, it's all kind of disgusting, really. But it's just the way he looks now energetically, it's kind of like a worm, you know. So it's sort of, I'm still alive, but I'm kind of pathetic with it, you know, because he's not being treated well, because he's been kept alive, but not in a good way. He's been kept alive and he's not being treated nicely at all. It looks like there's definitely some kind of torture going on there, some kind of retribution being sought, that kind of thing, which is interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. I never really thought about that. When I heard of his death, inverted commas for me, I immediately registered and said, he's not dead. There was just something that I knew. I was like, no, I'm just not buying that. But I never really thought about the fact of like what might be happening now. I haven't given it thought in a while. I figured he was somewhere, maybe he was cooperating or something. I never thought about this this aspect that you're bringing up. So I do find that interesting as well, this kind of retributive torture that might be happening.
Well, it's kind of like a humiliation. Yeah, it's kind of like a ritual humiliation. It's almost like the energy is similar, but it's not the same sort of situation. But the energy is similar to that scene in, I don't know if you've seen Silence of the Lambs, you know, where the girl is in the bottom of the well and treated like an animal. It's like it puts the lotion in the basket. It does this kind of thing. It's that sort of energy that he's being held in at the moment. So it's a real, he's alive, but he's not human. You know, he's not being treated like a human. And I would not trade, you know, places with him ever. I mean, I never would have done, but now it's like, God, there's no way, you know, that's a too high a price to pay for your life, in inverted commas, I feel. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Like, oh, wow, we've talked about so much.
Yeah, but it's interesting, though, kind of looking at people in this way, you know, and the people you wouldn't have looked at or I wouldn't have looked at before, just to see the interplay, you know, in that we talk about everything being connected, but looking at it like this, it's kind of everyone that we've named and everyone I've looked at is connected in some way, you know, and everyone's got their place. And talking about chess, they're all chess pieces, you know, so they all have different levels of power, different levels of importance, in inverted commas, and are being used strategically, very cleverly. So it's kind of fascinating to see how it all comes together in that way, you know, and see how long-ranging it is, and to see how, you know, the dark side, as it were, the cabal, to see how smug they are and how invincible they believe themselves to be, because they have been under the surface so much up until now, you know, like dinosaurs would have been, or the reptiles of, you know, back in those days, so cold they could survive anything because there's no warm blood pulsing through the veins. They can just survive, you know, nuclear fallouts or whatever, like cockroaches, you know. But they're so smug in it, but they have an inkling, but they can't see because they are too arrogant to be able to see what is really happening, you know. So they still think they're playing by their rules, but the rules are not theirs anymore, you know. And they are so reptilian, so, I don't mean in the David Icke sense, I just mean in the kind of, in the reptilian brained way of not even believing, but just assuming that everything is as they believe it is, you know. And there's such arrogance because it's like the lid of the darkness is being peeled back and they can't even see that there's light pouring in on them because they're so arrogant, you know. And it is the arrogance that will be their downfall, because it's that rigid belief and clinging on to things that they think are true, which are no longer true. And they never really have been, but they're definitely no longer true now. And it's great to see. I mean, it is really fascinating to see. So yeah, I'm fully confident in what's to come.
Awesome. That's not even what we were looking for.
Yeah.
You know? That's so funny. Just additional confirmation, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's not at all where I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, so James Dean dead or alive? Oh, well, maybe, you know. But,
I think I had him written down too.
Oh, really?
I think I might have put Marilyn Monroe, just like these weird things that like people wonder about. So.
Yeah, all the famous ones. Yeah. But they were both pawns. James Dean and Marilyn Monroe, both pawns. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both killed. Yeah. Sorry, just throw that out there.
No. It's why we're asking, right? Or why I'm asking. Just for interest. Mm-hmm. Cool. Very cool. Thank you for listening. That was our conversation on whether or not people are dead or alive. If you liked this episode, please leave us a comment down below, like this video, share it with your friends, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.